Hey, the Rulers DMO73 here, bringing you the deck profiles for the twin Milliums plus Ryula decks. Let's go ahead and jump right in. Ruler School is brought to you by Odyssey Games, where you can go to pre-order upcoming Force of Will sets, ccgprime.com for singles and supplies, cardodoko.com for those rulers in the international market looking for product, and to our guest lecturer members, Vite class is in session. So here's the first list, the one for Wanderer, the one that you saw us play. To make it use of some pretty cool cards, we got Frog Prince, Puss in Boots, Dragonoid Beekeeper. Constantino is kind of the linchpin of this deck. I would define it more as an aggro deck, trying to really pressure down with Constantino and making giant Puss in Bootses out of nowhere to keep your opponent from being able to really block, where you just kind of rush down and generate free card advantage thanks to Ryula. Ryula being able to help you draw a card every single turn if you roll high enough. You don't have to swap. Keep that in mind. You can fail to find to swap. So like if you're on Dragon side and you want to stay there, you totally can. If you don't, when you're going to go back to Millium, the light, because he's really nice because he is a fairy tale. So if you got multiple Constantinos out, you can get multiple stones, which is kind of cool. Then you can do that too. Return of Judgment here is a nice little bonus if you do decide to try to Judgment Dragon Millium, because keep in mind it only tracks your non-starting ruler to be Dragon Millium at that point in time. And then you just get some nice tech pieces for protection here. We're playing Star Scale because you might as well, because you don't really care about stone typing and you can lock your opponents out of that. Cage of Mother Goose is an excellent way to do some spot removal as well, because you have fairy tales with things like Dark Alice Rabbit Princess sitting on the field or Frog Prince sitting on the field. And then also we have the little Tinkerbell engine here with Tinkerbell Spirit of the Light Trials and Spirit of the Crimson Moon. One thing to note that's really cool is if you do Constantino and gets you a Puss in Boots, then you can do Tinkerbell and she will blow up your opponent's board twice and draw you 4 cards because she will double trigger her enter effect, which I think is just kind of neat. And then also for some interaction, of course, we want to be able to play some Cursed Mirrors and then a couple of Girl Staring Ats to kind of blank the board if needed. Also playing Alabaster Spellweaving Shaman, just because this deck doesn't super care about cheat-ins other than the Constantinos, and you can always just sacrifice them if you need to, same as other copies of Starscale with Dark Alice. And then Millium's Weapon, because you're playing Dragonoid's Beekeeper, you got the Millium's Weapons, you can kind of really rush down, and like you saw in that match, suddenly pump an extra 10 damage out of nowhere and just kill your opponent pretty quick. Stone-based wise, we're playing 4 copies of Stone of the Dragonoid, 3 Water Moon Fragment, and 3 Light Moon Fragment. The Light Moon Fragments are because we are playing Lunar Oxidizers in the board, as well as a Rogue Spectator if we don't see a Star Scale. So that's something to kind of keep in mind. Sideboard wise, a couple of copies of Dawn of the Earth, so we have them to grab off of Alabaster, the Millium, a couple copies of Flashing Smile to be able to kind of clear boards if needed, a couple copies of Fates Reunited, because I think probably every Lapis Cluster ruler should probably play at least a couple of copies of these, a sideboard just because, some extra Puss in Bootses, and then if we really need to, Ryulas. I don't super think you really need this, especially because swapping can kind of help you get around heals, but this was created by our good friend Taylor, who does all of our, Force of Will mats. You can see the artwork even in the background here of the old Foul Fest Festival mat. So we kind of took their initial idea and kind of tweaked it to there. So they were playing Ryulas, so we're playing Ryulas. But that's Wanderer. You have a lot of cool tools in Wanderer. In Paradox, you lose some tools. Again, both of these lists are down in the description. You can check them out for sure. You notice not a ton has changed, mainly beefing up some numbers, shifting some stuff from sideboard to mainboard, and adding some additional flexibilities. We're playing 3 Kid Puss in Boots mained instead of 2, because we kind of need to really lean on that aggression. We're playing more copies of Alabaster Spellweaving Shaman. We're playing main deck Lunar Oxidizers. I think this is worth your time because you can always get rid of it if you don't need it by tossing it to something like Lunar Protective Lifeform. But there's going to be a lot of sub-rulers in Paradox format. It just feels like it's pretty common. So having the Lunar Oxidizers mainboarded I think is worth your time. And then a couple copies of Angelic Battle Barrier and Hydria to kind of, again, serve for more of a stunny kind of aggro to limit your opponent's options while you try to push them down by rushing them down with Kid Puss in Boots. And then the stone base obviously is unchanged because it's all currently in hero cluster. So not a ton of change between this deck, between Wanderer and Paradox. You just kind of lose some options. You could also look into leaning into a heavier darkness package with things like Vacus. So certainly an option there as opposed to going into the red package, which we did with Oxidizer. It's really based on your meta and what you decide to play into there. But that is the deck profiles. Again, both of the lists are down in the description below. Huge thanks to Taylor for giving us the initial core for this list. And until next time, this is TMO73 saying class dismissed.